Because, for example, Jeff's idea of books on the internet, he didn't sell that many books. He ended up selling something else. And then he ended up moving and pivoting the company into many different things. And he followed where the journey took him, as opposed to, and this is a problem I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, is they have one idea, they try this idea for a little while, they have a problem, and they go, oh, okay, that one didn't work, but something else. And this is not the entrepreneur you want to fund. You want to fund the guy that has a bigger vision, that's not just one thing, and that has the resiliency to get through.
Now, knowledge. I mean, I can be passionate about my idea, but I'm totally ignorant about what it needs or requires to make it happen. If we split the pie in two, 100%, how much of that is knowledge? How much of that is passion? 50-50, 30-70, what?
For me, it's 80-20.
80 passion?
80% passion, yeah, 80-20. So, for example, now it's 3 companies ago, I started a company called Imperium Renewables, biodiesel company. I knew nothing about the fuel business, but I knew that at the time, oil was too expensive and going up. I started the company when oil was about $60 a barrel. Oil went up to $140 a barrel. And I was creating biodiesel, which was an alternative to petroleum diesel. And I was using a lot of technology, but I didn't know anything about the fuel business. I'd never never worked for an oil company. I never worked for a car company. I didn't know anything about how the industry worked. What I did know was how to use technology to improve manufacturing processes and to use computer technology to improve manufacturing processes faster than traditional refiners had done. So anyway, I ended up building the biggest biodiesel refinery in the world, raising $250 million. And I could hire everybody who knew everything about how to make oil and how to build a refinery and how to drive a truck from the oil from here to there. I mean, most of the specific knowledge in a particular industry, you can hire somebody to do. What you have to come up with as your unique thing is, how are you approaching the business differently? One of my favorite entrepreneurs is Richard Branson from Virgin, of course. And what he says is that what he wants to do is go into traditional businesses. And you look at all his businesses that he's been successful in, the wrecker business, the airline business, they're traditional businesses. But he comes in with a new way, a different twist, a different approach that makes his way of operating that business different and unique. So the fundamentals of the business, like in the airplane business, you're flying people from here to there. Well, what's he doing different? He was the first guy to put TVs in every screen. He was the first guy to put Wi-Fi in every screen. Those are innovations that were unique to him, right? And that was approaching and providing unique and different value in a business that people already knew. So you don't have to know about the airline business. You have to know what's your unique and different thing that you're doing.
Right. Now, what's fear for you?
What's fear for me?
I
what
ask
do you mean?
You because entrepreneurs or people that want to jump into the entrepreneurial world, they are afraid of the unknown. They think that pursuing a career in a bank or whatever, they have a, paycheck and all that stuff. So they feel safe, which between you and me, there is no safeness.
There's no safe
today. But fear is always there. Is that conception, is fear very important for you? Is fear probably equivalent to prudence?
I don't know. Certainly, now that I'm on my, 10th or 12th company, I'm much more experienced about what is going to happen when I start a company. And when I started my first company, I was probably pretty naive about things. Now I wouldn't say it's fear, but I'm much more measured. In my first company, I probably wasted a lot of money doing things that I didn't need to do. And in fact, I know I did. And it was because I just didn't know anything. And I'm more cautious now about how I spend money. But I wouldn't call that fear. For me, I actually have a saying that I tell my management team. I tell them that they should exercise their fear muscle every day. They should approach something that they think that is scary, and they should practice getting over even small fears. For example, there's a ritual that we do here at Upgrade Labs. And I just did it today with my controller, my new general manager. And that is that I always take them out for tacos, but we take a bird scooter for tacos. And most of my new employees, they've never ridden a scooter before. And it's a little bit scary. Like my first general manager, Amanda, for her, riding a scooter was something incredibly terrifying. But I was like, listen, you're going to live. It's going to be fine. You pushing through that fear, and coming out successful on the other side is part of how you get through as an entrepreneur. There's another thing I tell all my entrepreneurs that I invest in, and that is I tell them to take a cold shower every day. A cold shower is a scary thing. It's not very comfortable. It is a shocking thing to do in the morning, but you're not going to die. And it is, and you're going to, one of the reasons I suggest it is because by getting through that in the morning, you will have a little success first thing in the morning. You did something scary. You got through it. You lived. And now you are more set up to have a positive, successful day because you did something a little bit scary and got a success right away. That's the other reason why I tell them to make their bed. You know why I make my bed is because when I come home at night after a busy day, I have a clean, well-made bed. I go, oh, look, I did that. Like I had a success. The whole day could go to shit. Can I say that on the podcast? The whole day could have been terrible, but I come home and I see, first thing in the morning, I had a success. I did something good. I had checked it off of the test, and I remember that I had one good thing that happened today. So for me, I like to play with some small fears like that and to have a regular practice of getting through small fears because that reminds me, how to be successful.
Tell me about a failure that you have, but not in terms of describing it, but what did you learn from that failure and how did you overcome the situation? Because most of us entrepreneurs are always, oh my God, I'm going to fail. What am I going to do? Maybe you had that experience, did you?
Oh, I've had plenty of those experiences. And as they say, like about learning to ski, I mean, you're not learning to ski if you don't fall down. And in entrepreneurship, it's the same way. It depends on the category you're in. If you want to start a restaurant, something like 90% of restaurants fail. I mean, if you're not comfortable failing, if you don't want to fail, you should never start to be an entrepreneur because you will fail. And I have failed in incredibly, amazingly spectacular ways. My first company that I took public, Laudai, was worth a lot of money, but it was at the very end of the dot-com bubble. And during the dot-com crash, I lost $500 million in 8 months. And, that leaves a mark on anybody. But one of the things that helped, and I wouldn't say that's a failure because I still ended up with more money than I started, but having that amount of swing from positive to negative. I had friends that made a lot of money in the dot-com boom and lost and ended up buying houses that were too big. One of the things I have never done in my life as an entrepreneur is fundamentally changed my lifestyle relative to which companies I'm running. I had a lot of friends that did that in the dot-com boom, that when their companies were worth so much money, got big houses and bought airplanes and started to spend tons of money. And then the dot-com boom, I mean, it destroyed trillions of dollars of market cap in like 6 months. And it destroyed 500 million of mine, but I hadn't really changed my life to live in the bigger number. So when the money went away, it was not like it was leaving. But that did leave a lot of, shell shockedness and caused me, to wait longer to start my next company or to go back in it. And so for me, the key, for any entrepreneur, and one of the questions I ask when I'm talking about funding people is to tell them, tell me a story of failure. But I'm not interested in the failure. I'm interested in the resilience. I'm interested in what did you do? How did you get up and back on the skis? How did you get up and back on the bike? Because that skill of getting up after getting knocked down is in fact the most important skill for an entrepreneur to have. And if they've not gotten knocked down a couple of times and gotten back up and it can explain to me what they did to get back on the bike, then I know that it's going to be risky to invest in them, because if with my money they get knocked down and they don't know how to get back up, then my money's gone.
Absolutely. Now, from your point of view, what's success?
Well, I believe for me, success is being able to pursue the things that you want and having your own control of your own life and balance for yourself. It's not a goal. I have switched in the last sort of 5 or 7 years from having, and it's very counterintuitive advice versus what many people give. Many people say goals and success or you should have goals that are outcome oriented goals. Like, I want a car. I want this house. I want X amount of money, or this kind of woman, or whatever. I actually, about 7 years ago, switched to having goals that are only process-oriented goals as opposed to outcome-oriented goals. And the difference between a process-oriented goal is, I say, like, I want to have good friends around. I want to have freedom to surf in the morning. I want to have enough resources where I can take a day off of work if I want to. I want to have the freedom to be able, this weekend, I'm leaving on Wednesday and going to my daughter's parents' weekend at her college. She's a freshman in college. I have the freedom and the flexibility, because I'm CEO of my own company, to take that time and to go and do that. If I were working for somebody else and had to be in the office from 9 to 5 and these times and this and that, I did not have the freedom. For me, success is being able to have the freedom to pursue what you want in life. And that's a very process-oriented goal as opposed to outcome-oriented.
That's kind of Zen. Be more focused into the process than into the results. Yeah,
and the process and the journey. And that's the other thing about an entrepreneur. There's a guy that I love, Mark Manson, who wrote this very popular book now called The Subtle Art of Not Giving the F word that I'm not sure I can say on the radio. But one of the things he says is that you have to get comfortable eating shit sandwiches. You have to like the dirty work of doing the job as opposed to just want the outcome. One of his stories was that he, as a high school kid, loved to play guitar and always had this image of himself standing on stage in front of 10,000 people playing guitar. And he loved that image. And a lot of entrepreneurs love the image of themselves on the front page of a magazine or at the IPO or, being given some reward for being an entrepreneur. But if you don't like the work between here and there, that's the part you have to fall in love with. That's the part you have to be good at. And what he decided after a while of practicing and being in bad bands and stuff, that he didn't like the work of being a guitar player enough to get onto the stage. And this is my advice to entrepreneurs as well. If I hear them saying, well, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Because I want a big car and a big house and I want to be on the cover of Fortune magazine. You're not going to be a happy, successful entrepreneur. You have to like the work, the journey. You have to like the path in all the different ways from here to there. That's because that's going to be your daily and weekly work. It's nice to have a goal that's outcome oriented at the end, but you're not going to be happy and successful living and trying to meet those outcome oriented goals. You have to be more happy with the journey.
Do you meditate?
I do.
Is that the best habit that you have, and it helps you to achieve what you are achieving at this point in life?
Well, if one of for me, one of the key skills for an entrepreneur, as I mentioned, was resilience, the ability to get back up after you have had a failure. And for me, the best training for resilience is meditation, because that's exactly what meditation is. If you're focusing on a mantra or looking at a light or a candle or something,